Y'all ready? There we go. Okay. Good morning. Hello, welcome to everyone watching at home and to those here in the theater today. Thank you for joining us for our Coffee with the Curator series. Today we are joined by the Dali Museum's Allison McCarthy. Allison McCarthy. She is our Associate Curator, Allison McCarthy. Anywho, welcome in today for our Coffee with the Curator series. Today we're speaking about the subversive women. Our exhibit upstairs, the Subversive Eye, Experimental Photography. I hope you had a chance to see that because I believe today or yesterday was the last day. Yes? No? Oh, we extended it. Till May. Okay, perfect. So definitely for those here, after you're done, if you don't already have your wristband, your membership wristband, or if you are not a member, think about joining. Go upstairs and view it before it's going. And before we start, I would like to say thank you to the City of St. Petersburg for their continued support. Thank you, City of St. Petersburg, for your sponsorship. We can give them a round of applause. Thank you. And also a special thanks to our members who make events like this possible. Thank you, members. And thank you to our sponsors of the special exhibition, the Subversive Eye, Surrealist and Experimental Photography from the David Raymond Collection. With a deep appreciation for Surrealist Photography, our presenting sponsor, Marianne Rich. Thank you to our supporting sponsors, Ingrid and Jake Jacobs and Adele Visaggio. Thank you to our airport partner, St. Pete Clearwater International Airport, and our hotel partner, the Trade Winds Resort on St. Pete Beach. Thank you to our sponsors. And I do have a long list of events today, and I won't keep you waiting for the lecture, so I'm going to just zip through there. And please visit our website, thedali.org, for more information about all of these events. But to start, on Tuesday, we have the 311 Listen and Learn Community Connections session. This session is going to become a recurring session, but this specific one allows our community, gives direct access to our school board members. So if you are an educator, this may be a great free event for you. And then on the 12th of this month, we have art and meditation in our theater at 12 p.m. On the 13th, we have 2 events, so you can tag team both. They are both free. We have our catalog Simon with the collector of the exhibit, David Raymond. And then at 6 p.m. on the 13th, we have Poetry at the Dali, our recurring series here in the theater, and it's free. Then on the 16th, Sunday, we have Yoga at the Dali at 9 a.m. before the Dali opens. If you're not a member, you can get a discounted ticket to the galleries along with your yoga admissions ticket. Then the 18th, we have a very special performance. It's a traditional Japanese kimono painting performance by Sakura Abe, and she is flying in from Tokyo to join us for a traditional kimono painting. So I don't want to rush you, but there are 3 tickets left. So there's a few people in here today, so if you want to go online and purchase that ticket, it might just be there for you. Then on the 20th, we have 2 more events. We are welcome with another signing, but this time it's our cookbook signing with Chef Chuck Bandel of Cafe Gala. So if you haven't had your cookbook signed yet, definitely come by, go to the store, our store area, and they'll be able to direct you to where the signing will be. And we will also have at 5 p.m. Surreal Nights at the Dali, one of our fun events where we have a DJ and a community organizer come in. And also, during select nights in March, we will have the Dome Night, Pink Floyd, the Dark Side of the Moon Emergence show. Those tickets sell out pretty quickly, so also go online for those specific dates because it reoccurs throughout the month of March. Our next Coffee with the Curator in April is by Adam Joels of Florida State University, and he will be speaking about surrealism in Black and White, and that is April 2nd at 10:30 a.m. And today, it is my pleasure to welcome Allison McCarthy. Allison McCarthy is a curator and exhibition designer with over 20 years of experience in the arts. She has been working at the Dolly Museum since 2015. She graduated from Savannah College of Art and Design. Go SCAD! Woo, I gotta do a shout out. And studied art history in grad school from Florida State University. We love Florida State University. Her career includes leadership roles at the Clearwater Arts Alliance, Center for Contemporary Arts in Santa Fe, Art for Business in London, and Lemoyne Center for Visual Arts. Allison also serves on the steering committee for our very own St. Petersburg Shine Mural Festival. Please join me in welcoming Allison.
Thanks, Joyce. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. All right. We thought it would be an appropriate recognition of Women's History Month, since it's now well into March somehow, to speak about the female photographers in our show that does close on May the 4th. And we will miss it, but we will celebrate it today as we embark on a journey into the captivating world of the female and experimental photographers featured in the Subversive Eye on view in the Huff Wing. These were artists who defined conventions and reshaped the visual language of photography. In a time marked by societal shifts and artistic revolution, these visionary women pushed boundaries, challenging conventional norms through their lens. At a time when the medium was still finding its artistic footing, these women used it to explore dreams, identity, and the subconscious, often blurring the lines between reality and imagination. From darkroom manipulation to photomontage and staged compositions, they pioneered innovative techniques that challenged both artistic and societal norms. Through their compositions, they crafted narratives that transcended reality, offering profound insights into the feminine experience. Join me as we explore the lives, works, and enduring legacies of these trailblazing artists who dared to dream beyond the confines of their era. Today we'll explore some recurring themes. We're going to look at all of the 8 artists. And I looked at each one of them, and I found that each one of them was challenging gender norms and the male gaze. We consider the feminine aesthetic in design and documentary photography. There is a really strong theme about artistic erasure and then rediscovery of these female photographers and female artists in general, and reclaiming the female experience, identity, and voice. We will start with Lisette Modell. She's an American born in Austria. She did emigrate to New York City and she did a lot of work in New York City. And she was really known for her street photography. She was a pioneer of that. Born in Vienna in 1905, she moved to Paris in 1924, active in France in the 1930s, and then in New York in the 1940s. Her work often focused on capturing candid and raw moments of everyday life in urban environments, and she contributed significantly to the street photography genre's development. Modell's photography is characterized by its emphasis on the human condition, often portraying the diverse range of emotions and experiences found in city life. She had a keen eye for capturing the essence of her subjects, whether they were anonymous individuals on the streets or figures from various social classes. And this is the photograph we have upstairs. This image of a wealthy female tourist currently on display in our Huff Wing she's photographed on Nice's fashionable Promenade des Anglais. Is part of Modell's most famous series from 1934 of the same name, which was published in left-wing magazines like Regards. Reflecting her communist sympathies, the photograph carries a subversive and sarcastic tone, capturing the idle rich in a way that ridicules their behavior through surreptitious photography. The images in the series, Promenade des Anglais, are striking because of their exaggerated depictions of the bourgeoisie, often highlighting their corpulence, decadence, or aloof expressions. Modell's bold close-up framing and high contrast lighting emphasize the physicality and personality of her subjects, often in an unflattering and yet deeply human way. Her work challenges conventional notions of beauty and power, making the images feel both satirical and empathetic at the same time. Modell's work can be examined through a feminist lens in terms of its subversion of traditional representations of women, bodies, and power structures in photography. Her bold approach to portraiture and street photography challenged dominant aesthetic norms, particularly those that idealized women's bodies and upheld rigid class hierarchies. This rejection of aesthetic perfection can be read as a critique of the beauty standards imposed on women, questioning who gets to be seen and how. Many of her subjects, particularly the women, appear detached, reinforcing the constraints placed on women in elite society, expected to conform to certain roles while being surveilled for their appearance and behavior. Next up, Lotte Gerson. Lotte Gerson Colleen, 1905 to 1995, was a German photographer and architect associated with the Bauhaus movement. Born in Essen, Germany, she enrolled at the Bauhaus in Dessau in 1927. And my apologies for any mispronunciations. During her time at the Bauhaus, Gerson developed a passion for photography. Her photographs documented daily life at the Bauhaus and experimented with light and shadow on simple objects. This is one of her photographs of that building. Comparable to Dali and Brassai's surrealist involuntary sculptures and Man Ray's evocative photographs of mathematical objects, Gerson's experiments often highlighted the abstract qualities of everyday objects. In these photographs, she documented paper models that she crafted, resembling abstract sculptures. These are some of my favorites in the show. Notably, her images were published in the Bauhaus magazine in 1928, reflecting her integration into the school's artistic community. She later married fellow Bauhaus student and architect Edmund Colleen in 1931. After World War II, she and her husband chose to contribute to the reconstruction efforts in East Berlin, aligning with socialist ideals. While her husband advanced in his architectural career, specific details about Lotte Gerson's professional activities during this period remain scarce. That's the artistic erasure. Lotte Gerson's artistic impact reflects the broader struggle of women artists to gain recognition in male-dominated art movements. While she's not widely documented in mainstream art history, like that of many overlooked women artists, she can be re-examined through a feminist perspective that highlights contributions often marginalized by traditional narratives. Katt Both. Katt Both was a German photographer, furniture designer, and architect associated with the Bauhaus movement as well. Both's work exemplifies the Bauhaus principles of functionalism and simplicity. While she is primarily remembered as an architect, she is recognized for her innovative approach to photography, especially her use of close-up techniques that transform ordinary subjects into nearly abstract forms. Both enrolled at the Bauhaus in Dessau in 1925. Despite its progressive ethos, the Bauhaus still relegated most women to weaving and other so-called feminine crafts. However, she defied these limitations by moving into photography, furniture design, and architecture, areas where women were often discouraged from participating. In 1926, one of her cabinet designs was incorporated into the workshop's production line. After her studies, she joined Otto Hessler's architectural office in Celle, C-E-L-L-E, becoming the firm's first female architect. Both was one of the first women who managed to break into professional architectural practice, a discipline that at the time largely excluded women from leadership and creative control. Like many women of the Bauhaus movement, Both's contributions have often been overshadowed by those of her male peers such as Walter Gropius, Marcel Breuer, and Hannes Meyer. This reflects a broader pattern in architectural history where women's work has been frequently erased or diminished. In recent years, feminist scholars and historians have been working to restore Katt Both to their rightful place in design and architectural history. Re-examining her legacy highlights the structural barriers women faced and how they navigated them to leave a lasting impact. Next up is Lucia Moholy. Lucia Moholy was a photographer, writer, and historian. Her photos documented the architecture and products of the Bauhaus and to introduce their ideas to a post-World War II audience. Moholy's photographs of Bauhaus architecture and design objects became some of the most iconic images of the movement. Her precise, high contrast style helped define the visual identity of the Bauhaus. What we see the same exterior that we saw with Lotte Gerson, but this is on the right-hand side. She married Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, one of the masters of the Bauhaus, and this was a view from their residence. She was an early adopter of modernist photography techniques using experimental lighting, sharp angles, and strong compositions. Her work paralleled the new objectivity movement, emphasizing clarity and structure. Although she played a crucial role in shaping the visual archive of Bauhaus, her contributions were often outshone. Many of her images were used without attribution, contributing to the legacy of figures like Gropius and Moholy-Nagy, her husband. So she would take the photos and they would put their names on them. Such was the plight of the female photographer. Her legacy highlights the erasure of women's contribution to modernist art and design, as well as the resilience of women in reclaiming their place in history. After fleeing Nazi Germany, Moholy spent decades trying to reclaim her work and artistic identity. Her story exemplifies the struggle many women artists face in asserting their authorship on a patriarchal system that often prioritizes male figures. And this is the photo that's upstairs in our exhibition of a Mexican woman. Next up is Germaine Krull. Germaine Krull was a French/Polish photographer whose work, particularly in the 1920s and 1930s, is often associated with the new objectivity movement and was one of the first to explore the potential of photographic form, composition, and perspective. She was a pioneer in the fields of avant-garde photomontage, the photographic book, and photojournalism. Born in East Prussia in 1897, Krull lived an extraordinary life. She was the prototype of the edgy, sexually liberated Neue Frau, or New Woman, considered an icon of modernity and a close cousin of the French Gerson and the American flapper. Krull's artistic breakthrough began in 1928 when she was hired by the nascent View magazine. And in this slide on the left, we see the first edition of that magazine and the last. There, she developed a new form of reportage rooted in a freedom of expression and closeness to her subjects that resulted in intimate close-ups, all facilitated by her small format Icaret, a portable folding camera, seen here. During this period, she published the Portfolio Medal, 1928, a collection of 64 pictures of modernist iron giants, including cranes, railways, power generators, bridges, and the Eiffel Tower. Krull's participation in the avant-garde and modernist movements, which were largely led by men, was itself a feminist act. In an era when women were often relegated to domestic or sentimental subjects, Krull broke away from these confines by focusing on industrial and abstract themes, subjects that were typically associated with masculinity and the modern industrial world. And this is the portfolio of those 64 photographs. And this is the photo in our show upstairs. By photographing machinery, architecture, and urban landscapes, Krull defined what subjects a female artist could and should address. She worked independently, often traveling the world to document and create, which was unusual for women in her time. Her ability to assert herself within the male-dominated world of modernist art and photography is a testament to her personal agency and determination. After the end of World War II, she made her way to India, where she decided to live as a recluse among Tibetan monks. Eileen Agar, British, surrealist, firmly a part of the surrealist movement. Eileen Agar was a pioneering British artist known for her significant contributions to the surrealist movement. Her work blends elements of abstraction, surrealism, and collage, often incorporating themes of myth, the natural world, and the human psyche. Agar's art was deeply influenced by her travels, her study of early European surrealism, and her connections with prominent surrealist artists, including Paul and Nush Eliward, Lee Miller and Roland Penrose, and Dora Maar. She exhibited alongside Dali in the 1936 International Surrealist Exhibition in London and in later Surrealist shows, including the 1938 Exposition Internationale du Surrealisme in Paris. This is a photo from the London exhibition. And here's the flyer for that. This is the one where Dali showed up in the diver suit and almost suffocated. Agar's innovative use of mixed media and assemblage allowed her to create pieces that she felt both organic and surreal, drawing on forms and shapes from nature juxtaposed with abstract forms. Her use of vibrant color and texture and layering helped create dreamlike, otherworldly scenes. Additionally, she focused on more complex, nuanced representations of the female form, sometimes celebrating the body in abstract or surreal ways, and by incorporating natural elements such as shells, plants, and animal forms, many of which carry feminine associations in myth and culture. Her work deconstructed traditional symbols of femininity. These are the two photos by her upstairs. Agar's commitment to challenging reality and exploring the subconscious had a lasting effect on the evolution of modern art, particularly in the way artists approached form, narrative, and abstraction. Today, she is regarded as an important figure in both British surrealism and the larger European surrealist movement. While surrealism itself is often critiqued for its fetishization and objectification of women, Agar's work offers a counterpoint to the typical male gaze. In her art, the female body was not merely an object of desire or passive muse, but she was an active, dynamic presence. Indeed, one of her most significant artistic impacts was her role in shaping, carving a path for women in surrealism. At a time when women were largely excluded from key positions of influence in avant-garde art, she defied these constraints by not only joining the surrealist circle, but by becoming an active, innovative member, thus subverting gender norms. She remains an influential figure for her ability to both engage with and subvert the male-dominated artistic landscape of her time. Lee Miller. American photographer Lee Miller is one of the most remarkable artists of our generation. A celebrated photographer, respected member of the surrealist art movement, a war correspondent, model, and gourmet chef. She began her career as a model in the 1920s, but became widely known for her transition into photography, influenced by her interactions with major figures in the surrealist movement. And this is the photo you see upstairs. She's turned a carousel into something quite sinister. A former studio assistant of Man Ray, she later joined the American Army as a war photographer for Vogue magazine, documenting the liberation of Paris and the Buchenwald and Dachau concentration camps in a series of unforgettable images. She was one of the few female photographers to cover the war from the front lines. Her photographs during this time are stark and harrowing. This is perhaps the most famous photo of her in Hitler's bathtub. A former studio, I already read that one. Yes, she had just come from the Dachau concentration camp, and she was covered in mud, and you see her boots in the foreground and the muddy bath mat. And her partner decided to take this photo. They staged this photo. They hadn't had baths in days, apparently. Talk about subversive. So her association with surrealism, particularly her collaboration with Man Ray, introduced themes that explored the subconscious, the dream world, and the rejection of rationality, concepts that were often seen as liberating for women. Miller's surrealist work depicted women in ways that emphasized their power, complexity, and individuality. Her photographs can be seen as feminine responses to the ways in which women were often reduced to mere muses or passive subjects within the surrealist canon. She took control of her image, at times using self-portraiture, which reflected her own complex relationship with identity and self-representation. I wanted to point out this photograph because it's a technique called solarization, which she played a huge role in creating in the studio with Man Ray. So I'd like to give her credit for that. This is Lillian Harvey. One of her most famous photographs, Self-Portrait with Mirror, is a powerful example of this. It shows Miller gazing at herself, asserting her role as both the creator and subject of the image, directly confronting the stereotypical role of women as passive subjects in the artistic process. She navigated the intersecting worlds of fashion, surrealism, and war photography in ways that questioned and subverted the typical representations of women, offering an empowering and multifaceted perspective on womanhood. Oops. And last up, we have Dora Maar. Dora Maar, a French photographer and painter, is known for her distinctive contributions to surrealism. A native of Paris, in 1926, she began taking courses at the Central Union of Decorative Arts and the School of Photography, also enrolling at the École des Beaux-Arts and the Académie Julian, which she had the advantage of offering the same instruction to women as to men. Soon, she was deeply embedded in the Parisian avant-garde. She heavily influenced Man Ray, Jean Cocteau, and Georges Bataille. André Breton named his surrealist gallery Gradiva, partially in her honor. There's an image of the facade of Gradiva. Her work demonstrates a powerful combination of technical skill and emotional depth. Maar's photography delves into the themes of duality, dreamlike imagery, and the exploration of the unconscious mind, which were central to surrealist ideals. In her 1936 portrait of Père Ubu, Maar created one of surrealism's most striking images. Using extreme close-ups and dramatic lighting in an otherwise unmanipulated photograph, she made a nightmarish apparition from a baby armadillo. Oh, that's what that is. In 1935, first I'll talk, these are the photos, she is the most represented photographer in our show upstairs of any of the photographers, including the men. I think there are 16 or 18 Dora Maar photographs upstairs. These are three of my favorites, and they're teeny tiny little contact prints can be seen in a case, and then they're blown up on the wall. And these are from London. In 1935, Maar was introduced to Pablo Picasso, and the relationship had a profound impact on both artists. Maar's influence extends beyond her role as Picasso's lover and muse. During this time, Maar significantly influenced Picasso's themes and style. She taught Picasso photographic techniques and encouraged his political awareness. Her influence can be seen in Picasso's powerful anti-war painting, Guernica, 1937, his first foray into politically themed work, which she convinced him to paint over a 36-day period. She was not simply a passive muse, but an active creator. However, Maar's relationship with Picasso is pivotal to understanding her work in a feminist context. Under his influence, she eventually gave up photography for painting. Picasso had always considered the medium inferior, insisting that inside every photographer is a painter trying to get out. And invariably, paired with such a giant of art history, Maar's story was bound to be overshadowed. Her relationship with Picasso illustrates the emotional toll of being involved with a man whose own ego often outshone her artistic contributions. For years, she was remembered solely as the muse who was depicted in his iconic series of paintings of the Weeping Woman. And I included this famous quote by her, "All portraits of me are lies. They're Picasso's. Not one is Dora Maar." Reclaiming. Who knows Dora Maar's work? Who remembers that she was one of the rare women photographers accepted among the surrealists? Who recognizes that she devoted 60 years of her life to photography and painting? She once said, "I want to create an aura of mystery about my work. People must long to see it. I'm still too famous as Picasso's mistress to be accepted as a painter." She understood that she would have to reinvent herself, erase the weeping woman, and write another story. In fact, it wasn't until after her death in 1997 that art historians were finally able to examine Maar's masterful body of work in full. In the mid-1940s, she had begun to withdraw from public life. By the time she passed away, Maar had been largely forgotten. Her photographs defy traditional portraits of women as passive objects of desire. Instead, her images often convey emotional depth, presenting women as subjects with agency and autonomy. Her work doesn't conform to the male gaze that dominated much of the early 20th century art. Instead, she subverted it, turning the lens inward to explore her own psyche and identity. Thank you. Hi. Do I do question and answer? Does anyone have questions? Hello?
Can you explain the solarization process?
I can. The question is, can I explain solarization process? And it was discovered when she and Man Ray were in the studio, and something, probably a rat, ran over her foot, and she squealed and turned the lights on quickly and then turned them off, and he was quite angry with her. But when they sort of took the film and hung it and it dried out, they realized that it created this very fast exposure that creates sort of like an inverted, it has an outline around the subjects. So it's a darkroom procedure where you expose it to just a little bit of light. There's probably a better technical explanation for that. But,
mic here for those listening at home.
Most striking image I saw this morning was the Germaine Krull metal magazine. Is that a big piece of metal sticking out from someplace?
I think it's the Eiffel Tower. Let me go back to that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's some sort of mechanism, some gear, but could it be the Eiffel Tower? An extreme close-up? See the riveting, an elevator of some sort? Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous.
Is the metal coming out from the cover itself?
I think that's a piece of cloth that ties it together.
Oh, yeah.
The portfolio of the 64 images. Yeah. I would love to have shown all 64, but we don't have time. Anyone else?
The picture in the bathtub, it was supposed to be Hitler's bathtub?
It was Hitler's bathtub.
Okay, I just wanted to know if that really was his bathtub.
Yeah, it was. They rearranged some of the elements of it to it was a staged photograph. We'll go back to that one. It's really quite famous. She's put a photo of Hitler there.
Right.
That wasn't there, and arranged some elements of classical art there. And apparently everyone wanted to take a bath and shower. All these other soldiers were banging on the door, but they took their sweet time getting the shot.
Oh my gosh. I just wonder how people were even allowed to go in there, how that all.
She was on the front line. She was with the troops that
Wow.
took the house.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to say something.
Yes.
I've seen other photos from this series when the exhibit was in our museum. Can you just explain some of the other photos that were taken during this time and some of the other soldiers? They were very drastic and disturbing, but just to give people more of a context of what she was photographing at the time.
Sure. There's quite a few photos of like dead Nazis. There's a photo of a woman who is recently deceased, killed by American troops, laying on a couch. There are piles of bodies that she found in the concentration camps. Really difficult imagery that I chose not to show because I wanted to highlight the feminine things in that. I have given a lecture on Lee Miller, and I could give many more. But so the troops would come in, they would have their battle, and then the photographers would come in right behind them. So she was right there when the action was unfolding. And she really developed quite a bit of a bad case of PTSD. And I mentioned that she became a gourmet chef. She retreated to she and Roland Penrose's estate in southern England, and she taught herself how to cook and tried to be a mom, and kind of battled a lot of depression for the rest of her life. But her body of work is just so profound. She's really celebrated now. Yes, sir.
That picture of View, or View magazine, were a lot of the pieces done, shot for publication or for exhibition in galleries?
I'm not sure, because I just learned about View by researching this talk. I would have to think that the hope was that they, everyone wanted photography to become this medium that was accepted as an avant-garde medium. So I think that probably were taken in the hopes that they would be exhibited in a gallery. And, publication in a magazine was a great recognition. That's all I really know about View. I learned a lot about these women in the last couple weeks. But gorgeous photos, especially that on the right. I love that one. Anyone else?
I'm curious to hear more about what is the definition of surreal photography. I mean, it's much easier to see what surrealist painting is than, and maybe it's just because some of their techniques have become so more common now, but how is it defined?
I am not the curator of the show upstairs, so I'm going to give you my best guess, in that it carries the same sort of ideas as the painting, which is tapping into the subconscious, the dreamlike, the otherworldly. And some of the photography that we see that uses like some photo montage or other techniques we can consider in the experimental realm. So it's the way that you frame your camera, the way that sort of the idea of transformation, you're not quite sure what you're looking at. It's something that's like maybe an everyday object that then transforms into something otherworldly. I would say it's not too far off. All right, thank you. Good? Okay, thanks so much.